Hi, everybody. We are continuing our discussion on the coronavirus or COVID-19 pandemic. And if you've been keeping up with the news, you know that the country is starting to slowly reopen businesses in many communities with caution. We heard the governor of Florida yesterday announcing his plans for the state, but what does that mean for us here in Central Florida? On this special edition of Healthy Connections, we are going to get an up-to-date look at where we are as a community dealing with this pandemic. Our first guest is the very busy Orange County Mayor Jerry Demings, here to give us an update on what's happening here in Orange County. Mayor, thanks for joining us this morning.
Clarence, I'm glad to be on the show with you today.
Mayor, are we loosening restrictions here in Orange County?
Well, on May 4th, the governor put an order in place that goes into effect at 12:01 a.m., which will open up additional businesses here within Orange County. We intend to follow the order, but give some guidance to those businesses who are looking to open. Primarily, they are restaurants, retail outlets, and a few others that will be opening up. And so that's good news for our community. We still have many businesses, however, that will not be able to open on that day.
And what information can you share about progress happening with the Economic Task Force?
Here in Orange County, I am paneled an economic recovery task force, primarily of business persons who will be working to make recommendations within the next 24 hours or so, hopefully, about what type of guidance our businesses should have as they plan to reopen. Of course, the reopening will occur in phases. The first phase will be for businesses primarily that have low foot traffic that goes through them. They must open with certain guidelines, such as having social distancing embodied within their business. Many of them will be required to also have certain sanitary measures put in place, such as the certain employees will be required to wear gloves, a mask, and then the traditional hand washing protocols that the CDC and the World Health Organization have really focused on for the last few months will be part of the guidance that they will be receiving.
And how are we doing when it comes to testing here in Orange County?
Within the last couple of weeks, we have endeavored to increase the number of individuals who are being tested for the novel COVID-19 virus within our community. And this week, I believe that we probably increased the number of people tested by threefold. The good news within all of that, as we have increased testing, is that we have seen a flattening of the number of new positive cases within our county. They have slowly been dropping off. At one point, just several weeks ago, every 72 hours, the number of cases within Orange County of individuals who were positive for the virus was doubling every 72 hours. Now we have a positivity rate of about 5.4% of all of the people who are being tested are testing positive. To put that in perspective, some of the metropolitan or urban communities around America saw as high as 25, 30, 40% of the people who were being tested testing positive. So we have a low rate of positive cases here within Orange County, which is what has driven us to be able to relax some of the social distancing requirements in our community. With that relaxation, though, we have the responsibility to continue to monitor and look at the data on a weekly basis to ensure that we are not inadvertently increasing the spread of the virus within our community.
And you mentioned that we are going to begin seeing some businesses open up. What advice would you have for small businesses or restaurants that are just about to open their doors, many for the first time here in Orange County?
Well, throughout the pandemic, restaurants were able to be open, but they were only open for carry out or delivery services. Now, those restaurants that made that change in their business model are now going to be able to allow individuals to eat inside their businesses. However, they have to reduce the number of people who can eat within those businesses to 25% of whatever their occupancy was prior to the pandemic beginning and the orders being put in place. So what you'll see is that those restaurants will certainly have 1/4 of the people that normally at any given time that will be inside the businesses. However, the governor's order also allowed for businesses to be able to set up tables outside their businesses as long as, again, they could practice the CDC guidelines and individuals will be more than the 6 feet recommended distance between tables.
Mayor, a lot of residents are getting antsy and starting to get lax when it comes to staying in compliance with some of the rules that are out there. What would you say to the residents of Orange County about what they need to do as far as keeping with the social distancing and the hand washing and other things to be safe?
Yes, what I would say to our residents is stay the course here. We have been able to break the backbone of the virus within our community, but in order to keep those numbers low, we still need to follow the safe distance protocols that have been put in place. I know that people have been a bit anxious about getting back to some sense of normalcy, but I remind them that this virus is really still a very deadly virus. Just a couple of days ago, we had a police officer who worked for the Claremont Police Department here within the metro area who died of the virus. So it reminds me that this virus can kill. So we still do have people testing positive each day. However, that number has decreased and we want it to stay low. And so in order to keep the numbers low and not have a resurgence of this virus in our community, it really takes all of us taking heed to the warnings that have been put in place. And so that is what I'm asking our citizens to do. A bit of peer pressure really works best in terms of the regulatory oversight and who will enforce the various measures that will be put in place. It would be a combination of state agencies. Obviously, if you're a business, businesses are regulated in the state primarily by the Florida Department of Business and Professional Regulations, and you could still be fined and or charged with a misdemeanor if you violate any of these rules. Then there's the Department of Health. The State Department of Health has offices throughout Florida, and we have the Orange County office here that really is a state entity. We work with them in terms of the sanitary mandates that are in place. The Department of Health has some regulatory oversight. In terms of the enforcement of the social distancing provisions where we discourage the congregation of 10 or more individuals together, that could become a law enforcement opportunity there. And we have a curfew that remains in place nightly from 11 p.m. until 5 a.m. That is a local law enforcement authority for enforcement. And so what I'm saying here is that there are multiple entities that will enforce the laws to make certain that people do comply. But there's nothing like a bit of peer pressure. That's the best type of enforcement that we can have, is to have each one of us be responsible. If you're a citizen and you go out in public, I would highly encourage you to wear a mask. If you run a business or operate your business, in order for people to have the consumer confidence to patronize your business, they're going to want to see some of these measures being put in place in order to be a successful business at this time.
Well, Mayor Demings, thank you for all you're doing to help keep us safe during this pandemic here in Orange County, and we appreciate your time today.
Thanks very much, and I have to conclude by saying kudos to our healthcare professionals who are on the front lines dealing with this every day, and those firefighter paramedics who are out there responding to calls in our community, the law enforcement officers, and I dare say even those who have to continue to work with the worst actors in our society, those who work in our jails and prisons. So we do appreciate the work that all of the men and women do who are on the front lines.
Well, we appreciate that as well, and all those people, and of course the work that you're doing. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you very much.
And we'll be right back with more. Now let's get an update from our local medical professional, and joining me is Dr. Christian Zuver, the Orange County EMS Medical Director. Dr. Zuver, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Clarence.
I see that you're at a testing site, and you've been visiting the various testing sites around the county. Where are we as far as a rundown of the testing here in Orange County?
So, we have testing at several different sites, and we have different agencies that are primarily responsible for the testing. We still have our testing site that's being managed by the state at the Convention Center, as well as the Department of Health in Orange County has been running a mobile testing site, so to speak, rotating sites throughout the past couple of weeks. And just this week, Orange County received a shipment of test kits from the state government, and we're happy to say that we have set up our own testing sites to provide some resources to our residents. I'm currently at Ventura Elementary School, but there's also a testing site in at the South Youth Sports Complex on Orange Avenue.
And for people who don't know, we've been talking a lot about testing without talking about exactly what test is like. Can you give us an idea what the test is actually like for people who come there to Ventura Elementary?
Sure, it's actually a very quick test. We use a nasopharyngeal test, which is, I think, the preferred method by the CDC. And it's a very, very thin Q-tip-like device that we pass through your nasal passages, and we get a swab, and then we send it off to the lab. The whole testing process of the swabbing takes about 15 seconds.
And where are we when it comes to some of the numbers in Orange County? Are they going up, going down? What does that look like?
So as of today, we're around 1,400 confirmed cases in Orange County. We have seen a flattening of the curve, which is fantastic, and what we've really been looking for. We're trending our daily numbers, and we're also starting to see a sustained decrease in the number of positive tests that come out of our testing sites. So I think we're starting to see the good things that we've been hoping for, in that with all the social distancing and the stay-at-home orders, it's starting to pay off for us.
And Dr. Zuver, I ask the same question every time we talk, because I think it's important to find out who should get tested, because there's really mixed messaging in some cases about who should actually get a test.
Well, here at the Orange County sites, we'll test anyone over the age of 18 or older. You don't have to have symptoms. All we ask is that you pre-register via the county's website at ocfl.net, and we'll test everyone. I think it's important as the ability comes up to expand testing. Originally, it was mostly for symptomatic individuals, but I think to get a good handle of our numbers in the community, we're willing to test everyone.
And are we seeing the numbers of the asymptomatic people who test positive? Is that number going up here in Orange County?
Well, I think it's too early to say. We hope to have some data in the next week that really looks at the testing here, and that will, I think, give us a better idea.
And have we made any strides on the other end of the spectrum with people who think they may have already had the coronavirus? Are we making any strides toward the antibody test?
I think that's a bit of a trickier answer. There's a lot of antibody tests on the market, and there's many that have not been looked at by the FDA. So I think that's harder to say, because we truly don't know what the effect of having antibodies means in terms of immunity. But now, laboratory-based testing, we're starting to see some test results that are very specific to COVID-19. The original antibody tests, the problem with them is that they could also turn positive from other viruses. So I think hopefully we'll get some more data on that coming out. And I know that the WHO and the CDC are really working hard on specific antibody tests.
And if someone were to get tested today, find out a few days later that they are negative for the coronavirus, what should they be doing to stay that way? Because it's not a ticket to, go out and do anything and be reckless. So what should they be doing?
Well, you're exactly right. It is not a ticket to be reckless. And what I've been telling people, I think still holds true, is that act like you have coronavirus and protect yourself that way. So that means social distancing, wearing face coverings when you're out, only go out when you have to, and making sure that you practice good hygiene, and especially hand washing and avoiding touching your face. The same mantra that we've kind of shared from the beginning of this still holds true now.
And are there any other things that you'd like to tell the public that you've learned or have experienced since you've been dealing with this that you wanted to share with the public about this virus and how we are going to get over it? Well,
I think the thing important to share is that it can affect anyone. The median age is around 45 in Orange County. That it's not just the older population that gets coronavirus. But I think the other thing is to say is that keep practicing the social distancing. Even as we start to see the governor's relaxation and going into phase one, that it's not an all clear, and we still have to, treat this with kid gloves, because we don't want to be dealing with this for the next 6 months continuously. People are going to be very happy to get outside and see the light of day and see their friends and family. But please remember that doesn't mean we're out of the woods.
Absolutely. Dr. Christian Zuver, thank you for being with us, and thank you for giving us all the information that you do and keeping us informed from the front lines. We appreciate you.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
And stay tuned for more information. We'll be right back. This outbreak of the coronavirus may be stressful for lots of people. Fear and anxiety about the disease and possible job loss can cause strong emotions in families that could lead to other, more violent reactions. So joining me is Damiani, the executive director of the Victim Service Center of Central Florida, and he's here to tell us how his organization can help during these trying times. Louis, thanks for joining us this morning.
Okay, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Tell us about the Victim Service Center and some of the work it does here in Central Florida.
Sure. So the Victim Service Center we're in our 21st year of operation here in Central Florida. We serve Orange, Osceola, and Seminole counties, and we provide services to victims of violent crime, sexual assault, and any other kind of traumatic event. And certainly, with this recent outbreak, it qualifies under the traumatic event situation. And we provide our services a variety of ways. We do it through 24/7 crisis intervention. So we run a helpline where people can call, and it's always going to be picked up by the third ring by one of our master's level counselors. And then they can talk through, their fears and anxieties and issues that they might be having. We also are the Rape Crisis Center for all of Central Florida. We're the only Rape Crisis Center across Central Florida. So, our team is standing by, also ready to respond in person should the need arise for crisis intervention work.
And have you seen an increase in cases during this pandemic?
So it's interesting. Actually, our numbers have stayed relatively steady from last year to this year. With the main difference being, particularly because of the work we do on the rape crisis front, all the typical places where perpetrators of this kind of crime would go, they're shut down. So bars and parties and things of that nature. So what we're finding is that folks are now being assaulted by people that they know. In fact, this last month, so normally we'd see maybe 50-50 assault people that were known to them, unknown to them. During the month of March, that number jumped up to 81%. So the phenomenon about who they're assaulting has changed a little bit, but assaults continue, and people continue to be victimized. And what we want them to know is that we have 24/7 resources that are available. We have never closed down. They are open for people should they want to talk to them. And then we can also we do therapy work and other more intensive therapeutic work, and we still are open for appointments should people need them. We're just doing them now like this, utilizing video technology. But if there's a doubt, call us. Our helpline number is 407-500-HEAL. So it's 407-500 and the word HEAL.
And have you seen anything that is specific to these times during this pandemic that you hadn't seen previously with clients coming through the door looking for services?
Well, yeah. So the difference is this fear and anxiety of the unknown. Every day, really, we are all waiting for what's next. We would have never dreamt that this was even a thing, and here we are today. So the isolation, again, the fear, the anxiety that's being caused is what is serving as a trigger, and a lot of people are reaching out, because of that, or it's serving as this time when they're isolated, they're taken away from their sense of community. Normally part of people's healing process is being around, other loved ones or friends or part of a community. Particularly, let's take the LGBT community. What we're seeing is, that sense of community and camaraderie is now taken away because people are isolated. So they're looking for someone to talk to. They have a lot of time inside their own head to think about things, and this is causing a heightened anxiety that then they'll reach out and talk to our folks. It's actually been in a good way. It's an opportunity for us to connect virtually that we never had before. Our whole business was sort of predicated on that face-to-face interaction, and while we will continue to do that, and we have done that, 90% of our people are working remotely now. So we have a lot more phone contact and a lot more video contact, but we still have a process. We still vet people. People can still access our services. A lot of people are accessing our services who were transportation challenged previously and weren't accessing our services that are now starting to come and get services. An interesting thing that I'll point out is the average client that we see, even though we're great about crisis response, our people are on it 24 hours a day. The average client that accesses our services or comes to us, it's 8 years, almost 9 years actually, after their impact. So, so something happened a long time ago, 8-9 years ago, and there is some future trigger. There's something that has built up there. Something has happened that then it causes them to say, you know what, it is now time. I'm going to reach out and talk to somebody about my healing journey, and they'll get started with us. And so this time frame of people having extra time on their hands, having time to think and reflect, and now having this isolation, they're reaching out and getting services. And so, to the extent that we can encourage people to continue to reach out to us, to call on us, just know that we are there. We're going to be there, and not only for people that have been directly victimized, but our services extend even to what we call secondary victims. So anybody else that's caught up in the ripple of a victimization or of a traumatic event, we provide services to them as well. And we do support groups. Sometimes we'll do family counseling. It really is dependent upon the situation and what the circumstances are that surround each person. So we look at it in a very individualized, one-on-one way, and then we set up sort of a plan, and we start helping people work through it.
And how can people contact you and the Victim Service Center?
So a lot of ways to do it. We are the #1 Google search. If you start typing the word victim, we're going to bump right up to the top here in Central Florida. So tons of information on our website. Again, our helpline is 407-500 and the word HEAL. Always going to be answered by the third ring. And then we also, if people should choose to text, we have a text line that we operate Monday through Friday during sort of what we would call business hours. And that number is 407-497-6701. And people can text us as well. And of course, if they call our main business line, we always have somebody there to answer the phone as well, and can set up appointments and get you directed to a crisis counselor from there. So a lot of ways people can access our service.
Well, Louis, thank you for the work that you do, especially during these trying times. Thank you for being with us.
Appreciate it. Thank you for having us.
And more information follows. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. While people across the country shelter in place, work from home, or even temporarily close their businesses, there is a specific vulnerable segment of the population that needs special attention during these times. Joining me is Martha R., the Executive Director of the Homeless Services Network of Central Florida, to explain more. Martha, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity.
Tell us about the work of the Homeless Services Network and what it does in the community.
The Homeless Services Network is the organization that kind of coordinates services across the Tri-County region between Osceola, Orange, and Seminole counties. We facilitate the regional planning process and then help our agency partners to implement the plans in our efforts to end homelessness and the homelessness that any of our neighbors are experiencing.
And in this period of the coronavirus pandemic, how is help getting to homeless individuals?
It's a really good question. We have some amazing partner agencies across our region and here in Orange County. Our homeless shelters have allowed people to remain inside 24/7 so that they could honor the stay in place orders. And we also have street outreach workers that go out and interact with our unsheltered population, and we're encouraging those who are in campsites to remain in those campsites and trying to support them to do that.
And are there enough beds inside of shelters to be able to accommodate the homeless individuals who may test positive for coronavirus?
We're really, each community, each county, including Orange County, have developed a strategy for what to do should a person experiencing homelessness develop test positive for COVID or even need to be investigated for COVID. We recognize that it is not, would not benefit anybody to have someone who had tested positive to remain in a shelter, remain in that kind of a congregate setting. So instead, Orange County has established an isolation and recovery shelter so that persons who are identified as COVID positive or who are being tested and awaiting results are able to go to a safe place with an individual room and the privacy that they need so that they can rest and recover without jeopardizing any other members of our homeless population or the larger community.
So the CARES Act, which stands for Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security, is designed to help organizations with money that would help even the homeless. Would that help organizations that do aid homeless populations?
Absolutely. There was some additional funds that were put into some of the from the Department of Housing and Urban Development and other players, other federal partners, to expand resources for our community partners, and most of those dollars are coming down through our jurisdictions, whether through the state or through the county or the city, and those jurisdictions are in the process of identifying how they will administer those funds out in the community, which projects they'll be funding. And so right now agencies are applying for assistance, and we anticipate that those dollars will be out on the streets very quickly.
And if someone wanted to get involved and help with the efforts happening at the Homeless Services Network, how would they do that?
That's a great question. The best way to help is to contact the shelters and the other agencies in our community directly. If you have the ability to assist with resources for them, you can contact them directly. If you want to volunteer in the future when things are safe, you can contact them directly. However, if you've got some resources that you want to donate for the entire effort, you can you can contact the Homeless Services Network at 407-893-0133 or send an email to info@hsncfl.org. And we will reach out to you and identify and help identify who can most benefit from whatever it is that you have to offer to help at this time.
And with so many people losing their jobs and we're already home insecure, are you anticipating that there will be a need for more services to deal with more people who become homeless?
We're very concerned about the potential for escalating numbers of people experiencing homelessness over the next 6 months or a year, depending on how things continue to roll out. We know that many people have, as you know, lost income from employment. Right now, there's a moratorium on evictions, but when that's lifted, we're concerned that some people may not be able to keep up with the back rent payments that they owe. And so we're concerned that there will be additional numbers and there'll be a need for additional resources for agencies to try and help people get back into housing as quickly as possible and keep them as stable as we can.
Well, Martha, thank you for the work that you do and all the work that Homeless Services Network does in our community.
Thank you for your interest and your time.
And we'll be right back. Stay with us. We've heard from a variety of leaders today trying to keep you informed about the coronavirus, from local government, the medical community who's on the front lines dealing with this pandemic, and organizations who are continuing to serve our community. And we're also here to help you keep making those healthy connections. Stay safe, everyone.